I avoided Old School RuneScape because of how old it looks and never gave it a chance. But a few weeks ago, I gave in, made an account, and tried the game for the first time. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but I'm devoted to giving the game a fair chance before deciding to continue playing or not. It would be dumb to quit playing without trying out every skill the game has to offer, so today, I'm testing out all 24 skills. They seem to have a lot of variety and are sure to bring me to different areas, which is great because I've been mostly in or around Lumbridge so far. I'm especially excited to try out Thieving and Hunter. I thought this made a good goal because I started this episode traveling around aimlessly, ultimately getting nowhere. The map is overwhelming for a new player. There's so much on there, and a lot of it is just noise to me, but I did want to leave Lumbridge. In the first two episodes, I really was just trying to get my footing and had to adjust to basically everything about this game. I had to learn some of the quirkiness of questing and how to interact with things in the world. I finished the starter quests and took on Brutus, getting a look into a more advanced style of gameplay that was honestly a lot more appealing. With all of that done, the first place I went was Al Kharid because I saw there was a mage training place, which seemed like a reasonable place to go to learn magic, but it's for skilled magi only. The desert turned out pretty hostile. The scorpions stopped me from mining rocks, so I left. I headed for Varrock for some runes so I could work on my magic level. While I did that, I stumbled into the Rag and Bone Man quest. One of the creatures the odd old man wanted me to kill was a unicorn, which felt like a crime. Actually, this quest seemed like it would take me around the region a bit, but I eventually got stuck. I needed to get past level 40 enemies that I didn't dare to engage, and I couldn't find giant bats. My early belief was that I would have no problem finding something to do, but I'm feeling choice paralysis after my meandering. After thinking for a while and looking at my skills, I realized there were a lot of them I had not touched. I'll do better with a straightforward goal, so getting every skill to 10 felt like a great way to immerse myself more into Old School RuneScape. Some of my skills are already above 10. Attack, hit points, strength, agility, defense, fishing, cooking, fire making, and magic are already done. I'm just going to start at the top of the list and work my way down. So first up is mining. There's a pit right outside Varrock to get started. Getting to 10 was pretty quick since I started at 7 and happened exactly as my inventory filled up. Nice. From there, I ran to Edgeville to smelt bars, and smithing happens to be next on the list, for a reason that I refuse to accept as valid, no matter what it is. The forges and anvils are separated. They are so closely related that I can't think of a logical explanation for this. I turned the bars into a bunch of bronze bolts, which made sense to me with ranged stuff coming later. Apparently there are two versions though, a regular one and one with parenthesis UNF at the end. Unfinished, maybe? Whatever it is, there's another step to do. The combination of mining and smithing are fine. I wasn't expecting much from them, and they feel very standard. These skills haven't changed much across gaming in decades that I know of. When I finished level 10, I checked out Herblore, but the skill guide convinced me to skip it for now. I'll need to be able to farm to grow ingredients for progress. So I went to do ranged instead, and I was impressed by some of the combat options. Boat cannons and thrown items are a cool amount of variety, so I'm looking forward to seeing them later. With that, I found myself back in Lumbridge killing goblins. While grinding ranged XP, I got to Prayer 10, skill number 12 towards the goal. It's also my 200th level overall. Prayer doesn't even really feel real to me at this point. I bury every set of bones that I find, so the levels have come easily, at least. I beat up a sufficient number of goblins and hit level 10 in ranged. Ranged is okay, but feels a little worse than the other combat-related skills so far. It's fine that the arrows are occasionally used up on use, like runes, but it's a bummer that I need to loot the reusable ones every single time. And they aren't just kept on the enemy to grab with everything else after they die. If the enemy moves during combat, I need to go along their path to get them back. I also didn't see much of a difference between the stances for this one. I'm sure there is one, but I'm just too low of a level for it to matter. Range 10 was also a checkpoint with Adventurer John, so I picked up some rewards. I was curious if it's worth hanging on to the old stuff I used to wear. Am I ever going to need the lower level stuff again once I've upgraded? Pay me no mind, level 2 man, while I relentlessly follow you around, right-clicking and stealing your endless supply of coins. It's hard to imagine that this encompasses the whole skill. Pickpocketing NPCs and stealing from merchant stalls isn't super compelling. At least the coin purses stack up together, and I'm not stealing anything that takes up inventory space. Maybe I will in the future with a higher level. Since I'm in Lumbridge, I took a break when I got to level 5 for another attempt at Brutus. I'm just over halfway through the list of skills to try out, so it seemed like a good place for a quick break. I wanted to go into the fight with some food, so I went to fight Gilly's cows again for beef. Making the cooking fire gets me to 10 in woodcutting. For attempt number 2, I didn't really struggle at all. Without taking huge chunks of damage from his special attacks, he didn't pose much of a threat. I'm not sure how much of this to put down to an increased combat level versus knowing what's coming versus using magic this time around. It's probably a combination of all of them. While I was checking out my loot, he respawned and I had to fight him again. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I guess it's kind of cool that you can just keep redoing the encounter back to back like that. It was also explained to me that the first time I fought him during the Ides of Milk quest, it was impossible for me to die from his regular attack. And here I was, thinking I had some insane run of luck to survive with no hit points left. Anyway, there were no problems with the second fight either, and I figured out how to escape through the gate. When I went back to thieving, I started to look around for vegetable stalls to steal from to mix it up. While I was looking, I picked up some chaos runes to try out Windbolt, but they cost 90 coins, which is way pricier than I can afford right now. I got a few just to try them out and see the difference from Windstrike. After looking through Varrock, the local farms, and Draenor Village, I gave up trying to find these stalls on my own. The wiki says there are 2 of them that can be stolen from. Not local ones. 2 of them in the entirety of the game, and neither of them is even remotely close to where I am. Well, I guess I'm going back to stealing petty cash from nameless NPCs. They're so used to me by now, they don't even care that I'm just pickpocketing them right in front of their faces. A beekeeper asked me for help building a hive. I tried to help, and at first didn't realize I needed to move the sections over to the other side of the window. I have got to be the only person who has ever played this game and struggled at all with these things. It's incredible. I'll admit something here I'm not proud of. I tried to pickpocket this tramp. I promise it was purely scientific. I just wanted to know if you could, and it turns out you can't. There's no moral or monetary gain to be had trying to steal from the downtrodden. The repetitiveness of the grind to level 10 thieving reminded me a little bit of running the agility course over and over again, and it was somehow even less interactive. I really wanted to like it, but it feels like something is missing. Some of the other skills are incredibly complex and demanding in comparison. It's nice to have some variety between skills, but I'd prefer thieving to be more interesting. Thematically, I love a good heist. I'm hoping this skill pays off later in the game with a cool questline or something like that. Level 10 here finishes off the 15th of the 24 skills. The perfect skill to highlight the difference in simplicity was the next one, crafting. I don't know exactly what each recipe is for, but the variety is kind of crazy. The overview says there are 5 different skills that it interacts with. The recipes range from weaving to weapons and jewelry. Crafting sounds more like an entire category, not a singular skill. To my inexperienced mind, you could divide this up into additional skills. While I poked around in the magic skill earlier, I saw there was a teleport for minigames and looked at what it did. It can take me to the mage training area I was at earlier. I need some new tools, and there's a crafting shop in Al Kharid, so I teleported there. While in the area, I also took the opportunity to test out Windbolt on one of the scorpions, and it doesn't seem to be better than Windstrike. Right now, I'm glad I didn't invest in those expensive runes. Good news for me, I already have a bunch of leathers from the cowhides I collected while getting ready for Brutus in my bank. I'm not sure where my first 9 levels came from, probably spinning wool for sheep shearer, but I finished off the last level I needed and I'm done with 16. I definitely don't have a great feel for how crafting will be just yet. Its apparent impact on so many other parts of the game gives me the feeling that I'll be back working on it before long. I'll add that making leather was miserable. Unless I missed something, I had to convert every single cowhide one by one. I don't understand why it worked that way, especially since everything else seems to be done in batches once you get it started. The next skill on the list is fletching, and it looks like I'm going to need logs. I was happy about this. It's been a while since I got to just chop the trees. The beekeeper guy came back, so now I know that the same random guys can show up more than once. I got the second piece of a beekeeper suit, so I'll see him again. I needed a knife to whittle the logs for this to work, and I don't have one in the bank. The sword shop and general store in Varrock didn't have one. I know I've run past one by the chef in Lumbridge Castle 1,000 times. I teleported back to get it. No matter what I do or where I go, I always seem to end up back here.
There's no place like home.
Partway to level 10, I checked the wiki to see if I could make bows instead of arrow shafts. I would need flax, which I could grow from level 18 farming. That's a long way off, so I decided to stick with the log work. With all of the trees I cut down, my woodcutting actually leveled all of the way to 20. I was in a cycle of zen working on fletching. I pathed around chopping on trees, filling up on logs, and listening to that thwacking sound. Then whittled them down while sitting in this little forest, adding them to my stack of arrow shafts. A nice little two-step process to gain experience. I've said it before, but I think that if I'm frustrated at any point, going off into the woods to start a lumberjack arc is good for calming down. It didn't take very long to finish fletching. To get started on Runecraft, I had to complete a quest. Luckily, I guess, I was already in Lumbridge with the Duke, who starts Rune Mysteries. He sent me to the Wizard's Tower with an artifact. I explored a little bit, and these dudes are keeping a demon on their top floor. I'm not saying I'm suspicious, but yeah, maybe a little bit. The commute back and forth between the tower and Aubrey and Varrock turned out to be a practice run for what I ended up doing. Teleport into the mine, fill up on essence, run to the air altar, convert to runes, and repeat. Over and over and over again. In the skill overview, I saw that there are pouches that can hold more essence. Like many of the skills I've already worked on, I'll have to get past the point where something will meaningfully help me before I can unlock it. It was partway through Runecraft that I started to feel some fatigue. Outside of the combat skills, which worked basically how I expected, a lot of the other ones have me feeling like a postman. Many of the skills feel a lot like they're just reskins of the others. I thought I'd be doing more creating or doing, but what I'm really doing is shuttling back and forth between a place to grind, a place to create, and the bank. I was struggling to see myself doing this over and over again because it's uninteresting, but something fell into place for me at this point. Instead of suffering from the run between all three areas, I tried something else. I cut out the creating step and stopped running to the altar completely. Instead, I kept going back to Aubrey to be teleported into the mine, filling up the inventory, then dropping it all into my bank before going straight back for more. This got my mining all the way up to 20. It enabled me to make just a single run from Varrock to Falador so I could make trips between the bank there and the altar since they're much closer together. Doing things in batches like that seems to be way easier and less frustrating and helped me power through the end of Runecraft. It was time to move on to Slayer, which also required a quest to begin. I loved how this started. Finding something to do on a notice board in a little town is the perfect comfy vibe for an MMO. It eventually led to me climbing down the strange hole near Draenor Village, where I was ambushed by a gnarly pig thing. After I saw what I was up against and rescued, I wanted more food to bring back to the fight. I hope Gilly doesn't take this personally. I'm sure there are other herds of cows out there somewhere. This pasture is just in a convenient spot. When I climbed back down into the lair, it was immediately obvious that I wouldn't survive if I stayed in the fight. Even with the goggles on and a stabbing weapon, I was just tickling it while getting smacked with critical hits. I needed to regroup, so I abandoned the attempt and ran out of there.
I'm a coward.
I decided to level my attack to 20 so I could use mithril gear, and I'll be rewarded with a set from the adventure path. I wanted to try a new area for leveling this time, so I'm at Barbarian Village. There are a lot of enemies close together, so it seemed like a good spot. Every time I killed one of them, I buried their bones under the feet of their comrades. It's kinda metal, but I think they might appreciate the vibe. While I was fighting with them, I checked out the prayer skill stuff, and I should be able to use this for the fight with Sourhog. I can toggle on a prayer for a bonus, and it drains over time, a lot like running with agility. I just have to refill it at an altar if I run out. Once I got to 20 in all three of attack, strength, and defense, I picked up my new gear from John and stocked up on salmon and strength potions. Even with all of my upgrades, including the thick skin prayer, Sourhog still gave me a beating. The The combination was enough to get me over the line though, and I completed a core sign of interest. 5,000 coins is a huge reward for me. I'm rich. It also takes me up all of the way to level 9 in Slayer. The fight was much less interesting than the one with Brutus. It was like fighting a mega-charged version of a Lumbridge Goblin. I got a task to kill ghosts, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before, so I checked the wiki to see where I need to go. There's a sewer under Varrock. The Slayer Master, Spria, told me to try wind magic on them. I was happy to test that out, and it does do a ton of damage. The experience needed for level 10 came pretty quickly since I was getting it from each individual kill and not only from finishing the task. My magic level goes up too, and my total level is now at 300. I hung out in the sewer a bit longer to finish the task before leaving. Slayer is one of the more fun skills that I've tried. I'm not sure if there are more quests specific to Slayer coming later, but the concept seems like it will carry over. Using specific gear or abilities to take down customized monsters is a great way to switch up combat and make the grind engaging. It's a subtle way to make sure the player is dabbling in different aspects of the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else I'll need to do for it in the future. Just like earlier, when I compared thieving and crafting back to back, the next skill had a wildly different feel compared to the one before it. Farming in Old School RuneScape sucks. The patches can only grow specific types of plants, and they're very spread out. There are a ton of things to grow, all of them with specific seeds to collect. For now, I can buy some at the market in Draenor, but it isn't a huge collection of them, and many I can't even plant yet anyway. I thought the leprechaun guy could hold these for me, which would make this better, but he doesn't. It's nice that I can store tools and compost though. There's a small amount of XP given for raking the weeds out of the patches, but I can't even use each space at the Falador farm. One is for hops, which I can't even plant yet. I asked the player near me about what I should be doing, and they were actually new too, so they couldn't help me. This is by far the most passive skill I've seen in this game, and I'd prefer the ability to check on farming patches as I pass through areas without needing to dedicate whole trips to it. There's nothing I can do that I can tell to speed up plant growth, so I left them alone to get started on Daddy's home and unlock construction. I can see why they wanted to introduce this to the player with a questline. Construction is RuneScape's version of player housing, and there's a lot going on there. Once I finish the quest with Old Man Yarlow and learn how to build stuff, I get my own house, building supplies, and level 8. It took me a few trips and a visit to the sawmill, but after I built a few basic items in my little shack, I'm level 10. Construction was very bare bones, and I didn't really interact with the skill part of it. Still, I'd put this up near the top of the list of things I'm interested in seeing more of, because building and furnishing my own house sounds awesome. I went back to check on my potatoes and flowers. They're dead. Of course they're dead. I've been buying supplies from Sarah, so I asked her for farming tips. Ask a gardener. Very helpful. I mean, that's better than nothing. The skill guide shows something called payment under the recipes, which I didn't understand. But it tells me that putting compost on the patches should help keep them alive. I set it all back up again and start trying to figure out the hunter skill while I wait. And I have a big problem. The tutor to get started with Hunter is in Corsair Cove, which is way outside of the area I've been confined to in my gameplay so far. The skill guide is nice enough to tell me I can get there. I just need to charter a ship. But that's a 1,200 gold one-way trip. The 5,000 I'd gotten from the Slayer quest has already dwindled away, and I'm actually 12 gold short of being able to afford it. And of course, that would leave me with literally nothing in case I needed to get back quickly for any reason. I came up with an idea and started sailing first in the hope that I'd be able to make my own passage. I'll have to do Pandemonium to continue. Anne and Will got me started as a crew member, and we headed out to salvage a shipwreck. They got the piece of loot they wanted, and then threw me overboard. The folks at Pandemonium took good care of me though, hooking me up with my own raft and explaining the basics. The quest also got me all of the way to level 5. After I checked in on my crops, I went back to my boat with a courier task and headed for Pandemonium. I got to 7 and can now do 2 at once, which should speed me up. I set sail to the south around the pirate base, but trying to cross the water here was a mistake. I saw on the map that the watercolor was different, and I was unable to pass through at my level. Lightning struck and capsized me. I had to pay to recover my boat. While looking on the map for a different path, I saw there's a boat to Corsair Cove near Rimington, which I think is different from chartering and maybe less expensive. When I checked it out, there was no option to go there for some reason. So I set sail again, heading up and around close to the shore and eventually make it all the way to the dock that I need. Except I'm not allowed to use the port because my sailing is not level 40. At least I got to level 10 from trimming the sails on my long journey. I had been making trips back to the farming patch to harvest plants, reconfigure the patches, and fill the compost bin. Very boring, very slow, farming is done. After all of that, I gave up and forked over 1200 gold to charter the ship. I'm broke, but going in the right direction at least. In the jungle, I discovered that there are a lot of different tools for Hunter. Starting out, I could only catch the red birds on the coast. My inventory filled up, but there's a bank deposit box at the cove. Come on, man. I actually ran most of the way to Yanil to get to a real bank. While I was here, I thought I'd try to figure out how to use a torch to mask my scent and make the bird snares more effective. Except I can't use the torch for Hunter until way, way later. I kept running into this problem, and again right now in fact. I can't cook the bird meat yet either because I need a spit, which I can't make. When I could, I switched to tracking weasels instead. It felt much more active than waiting for the bird snares. Once I figured out to inspect the plants near the tracks, my progress went pretty quickly and I got to level 10 in Hunter. It was safe to teleport back. I finally reached the last skill. Herblore. One more time, I'll have to run through a quest, this time near Taverley. It wasn't too bad, I just needed to collect a few types of meat and then sprint past some enemies to an enchanted cauldron. I think this is done kind of poorly. I'm fine with skills being locked behind a quest, but why not use that quest to actually introduce the skill in some way? Construction and sailing were perfect for that. I learned how to navigate my own ship and build furniture for my own house. But some of the other introductory quests feel disconnected from the skill completely. You might remember I skipped Herblore earlier on because I thought I would need farming to do it. Turns out I was way off. That skill, it's not helpful. I need guam leaves, but when I checked the stock of seeds I bought earlier, I had none. I checked the shop in Draenor for more, and no luck. When I looked at the wiki to see where they come from, I didn't recognize anything on the page and knew it wasn't happening. So, like so many times before, I went back to Lumbridge. Before, my crimes against level 2 man were petty. Now I've escalated to cold-blooded murder on an industrial scale. It took a lot of kills to get my first leaf, even though I was getting other kinds. I have to clean it to use it for a very generous 2 experience. At least I'm stacking ranged XP while I'm here. Actually making the potion is simple enough and can be done anywhere, which I was happy about. I got all of the way to 20 in ranged while farming these guys. It was the very last thing to accomplish for Adventurer John, who gave me a voucher for more things to collect around Varrock. I'm also level 5 in Herblore, which opened up a second recipe using one of the other plant drops I've been seeing. I needed more unicorn horns for it though. As I neared the end of the grind, Captain Arnav came back to give me a second chance at opening his stupid pirate chest. Last time I tried this, I failed, and thought it wanted the entire column to match the name of the object on the bottom. It took me 2 seconds to unlock it for him this time. I am redeemed. Stop making fun of me for failing a test made for 7-year-olds. After I gathered a stock of the leaves, I made them all into potions and 1 single unicorn horn short. The run to Varrock has never felt shorter. I grabbed the final horn, turned it to dust, and made the last potion. I crossed the finish line. All 24 skills to at least level 10. I struggled at times with this goal. A few of the skills weren't fun at all. Without the incentive of cooking and herblore, there's a good chance I would never do any farming again. I hope that there really is a cool questline for thieving because I feel the same way about it too. There's a huge difference between those and the skills that are fun or provide a real benefit. One of my favorites is magic, which feels strong in combat, and I also have teleports to look forward to, which should open up the world. Sailing is another because it's like a choose-your-own-adventure, and I think it's awesome that you can hire a crew later on. Even woodcutting, which is just as simple and plain as thieving, has its merits as a relaxing skill with actual use. Not all of them are created equal, but maybe they were never meant to be. I've started exploring more of the map, even if it was weird or unnecessarily difficult to get certain places, and tested out every skill in Old School RuneScape. My view on the game is changing. With more time spent, it doesn't feel as outdated as I thought. I hate to keep saying it, but it still feels too early to know if I like it or not. Parts of it are fun, and parts of it aren't fun. There's a ton of places I haven't been or seen. I have no idea how the economy works, for example, and I wonder how different endgame content is now that I've seen the interaction between skills. There's still a lot to see out there.